at in this residual analysis at all the lines and aligning them into a one-dimensional signal. For an ordinary video camera today, we can easily have hundreds of lines. So hundreds of lines times 30 frames per second. That is much more than enough to overcome the aliasing. It is from this connected one-dimensional signal that we are going to analyze the instantaneous frequency and then doing further analysis in terms of time and location. So this is an example that we have two video cameras independently set up and taken. So my student who worked on this project, Hui Su, he's moving across the scene, and you can see for a good part, he's actually out of the camera's view. And here, what we are showing you are the EMF traces extracted from each of these camera views. And we can align them, and this will tell us the two cameras are actually started about 1 minute apart. The significance of this is we can now use the ENF as a new modality to help us synchronize multiple streams and multiple cameras. Before this research, today we are going to have multiple views. We either will run the same protocols to have the timestamps on multiple views, or if we use our visual alignment, we will need to align both temporally and visually together with a video with a huge data volume. This is a tremendous amount of computational complexity. But with this, we can decouple that. We can extract the ENF signals independent of the visual content between these multiple views, and then align them and then narrow down the temporal alignment. And then we can provide you immersive experiences. When we go to our gala events, our sports event, we'll be able to provide multiple views in much efficient ways. And even when you have a view that doesn't have a geometric overlap, we can still do the synchronization. So this is a recap of the residual analysis that we have seen, where we have used motion compensation and employed the temporal redundancies to help us estimate what are the values coming from the core content and what may be the residuals coming from the lighting, and that's where the power microsignals are located in. And we also have some recent work presented at ICAST this year, where we also take advantage of the prior knowledge, being the power has a sinusoidal waveform. We will be able to extract some properties of the EMF from just one single image. This way, exploit the rolling shutters and then employ the prior knowledge about the sinusoidal shape. We will be able to infer whether the picture are taken from a 60 Hz grid or 50 Hz grid to give you some of the location information in that way. And EMF in normal power operating situations, the changes will be more continuous and smooth. If we see the abstractions of EMF from a video recording have abrupt changes, like here, that would be a strong indication either a clip was inserted or deleted, and therefore the integrity of the video will be serious questions. This is how we can use EMF as a vehicle to detect a temporal domain tempering. Regarding the location information, when we have the power references, we will be able to do this exotic match to look at with which grid at what time we have a high match, and therefore infer the time and the locations. But even when we do not have this concurrent power reference recording, we could still see the pattern of the variations in this EMF is related to the power algorithms because the variations you see here is really a result of an ever-changing demand for electricity, and the power companies have their control mechanisms and controlling the power plant to generate just enough power to match our demand. The variations is a process during this dynamic interactions. So depending on the power control mechanisms, in US we see the EMF very stable. We need to zoom in to show that the variation is on the order of 0.01 Hz. In other parts of the world, in India for example, you will see much more profound variations. And in Lebanon, the changes is even more drastic. So this suggests we could use the ENF extracted from our sound or visual recordings, and then to pre-learn what will be the variation pattern using pattern recognition and machine learning mechanism to infer the likely grid locations. For example, the mean values would be helping us to divide whether this is 50 or 60 hertz, and we can also looking at the time frequency patterns of variations of the ENF. So those are the wavelet coefficients that we obtain. And we also find the autoregressive modelings in terms of the autoregressive parameters, as well as the variance of the innovation sequences are also helpful as features to do the distinction. And this is the research that we have done that Santos had kindly giving a preview. We shaped the research into an undergraduate project, and this was adopted by the Society for the Signal Processing Cup in 2016. There are hundreds of students around the world. They are undergraduate students forming teams to participate in this effort. Every continent with the people living in are covered. You can find the data set and the background information from the links in the Signal Processing Magazine's education articles. So we can further looking at whether we could zoom in to determine the location within a grid. And for the power communities, they have told us major trends of variation is shared anywhere in the same grid. We have done an experiment to show that if you look at the detailed trends at the different locations, they will be a little bit different, and that will be location dependent. So we have research that exploit those differences, and will be able to zoom in to infer where this recording happens, where within the grid. And this also have some promising use in the recent discussions with colleagues in IoT and the CPS communities, where we could potentially utilizing this ENF traces extracted from the sensor recordings that could be a photodiode built into an IoT device. And you have to be physically in that location in order to see the pattern, especially those microscopic location-dependent clues. And this would forming a challenging response to helping us mitigate the sensors attacks where the sensor information may be injected by the attackers from elsewhere. So after our research dealing with motions and extracting the power microsignals, we have expanded that to look at microsignals containing physiological information, and in particular, the heart rate. Heart rate monitoring is very important in both medical use as well as to sports fitness. And traditionally, the heart rate is captured using contact-based sensors. For example, a very tightly fitted chest strap. We also have, so those chest straps actually measure a form of an ECG. From that, the companies can provide us the heart rate information. They also have in the peripheral, for example, using oximeters, they are going to shine lights to our fingers or to our toes and then measure what will be the changes in that intensity. As our heart pumping blood to different parts of our body, we will looking at the subtle changes in those sensors. But when we have dedicated sensors, the signal can be quite well extracted, measuring the blood volume pulse information. Those blood volume pulse information can also be seen from videos looking at our facial videos. For example, from the subtle color changes of our cheek and the forehead. And that really providing a contactless ways to measuring and infer heart rate. And so this modality has been investigated more than 10 years ago. There were more recent work by two groups from MIT. They have wonderful video demos, really popularized this modality and bring our attentions in the visual communities to looking at video analysis and be able to infer the heart rate and other physiological information. But the vast majority of the work are considering the rest case. That is a medical term describing that the person is sitting there pretty much still. When you don't have much movement, frame by frame, when we look at the region of interest in the facial skin area, we see the color changes, and that will we can do frequency analysis to derive the heart rate information. The challenge is in practice when you have movement, and especially very significant movement when we're running on a treadmill, when athletes are doing trainings, or even when you're driving and we want to have a video looking inside the cabin to monitor the driver's condition. We will have a significant movement as well as lighting changes. And how can we extract the signals in that way, in that kind of conditions? So here is a demo of my student Qiang Zhu, who is one of the major contributor of this work. So what we are looking at is to apply the expertise we have done from the power microsignal. And with the face, our community have contributed many of the face locators. And if we direct using face locator, there will still be movement, which will still quite dominating and can interfere with heart rate extraction. We need a high resolution alignment through high resolution motion analysis, for example. And then after that, we will look at the region of interest, and you can see very faint green lights here shining, kind of flashing, and those will be in coordination of the heartbeat. And from that, we are going to estimate the instantaneous frequency. The plot on your your left-hand side, the blue ones is coming from the chest strap. That's considered gold standard in the fitness area. The red ones are our estimated results. And you can see that for the vast majority part, the relative error we are achieving is well within 1%. So that would translate to about 1 bit per minute of errors, or much lower than that. So here, on the next slides, we are really summarizing this compensation approaches. And here is a snapshot of video frames of my former student, Chao Wei Wang, who is in the audience. He's now with North Carolina State University as a faculty member. So taking his video running on a treadmill, we use a face detection and cropping the face area of interest. And you can see there's a different orientations as he's running on the treadmills. If we do not compensate that, that still overwhelms the heart rate estimation. So we take a segment of video of interest and then identify a reference, and we are going to register and align the orientation of the face with respect to that reference. And then from there, we will identify the area, the skin area of interest, and we will estimate what is the average colors in the red, blue, and the green channel. This will give us 3 numbers per frame, and overall give us a 3 one-dimensional signal. And from here, we can look at whether there's a common component representing heart rate. We can, and as also indicated in the literature, we could use independent component analysis. There are also studies looking at a normalized form of the green channel or a color differential, basically a suitable form of linear combinations, and deriving us a pre-processed signal. The fluctuation of this would be shining lights about the heart rate, and we can do a frequency analysis on that. And what we found, even after all these compensations, the resulting signal when we visualize it in a spectrogram still have a substantial amount of motion residues. And if we do not do any compensation, that's going to overwhelm the overall spectrogram, and we can hardly see the pulses. But with high resolution registration, we will start to be able to see the weaker pulse, but still have the dominant things, and overall very noisy. And this is actually very